We are back in the war room once again for the first time in over a month. Ayush and I are back in the war room for the first time in over a month. Alec Pierce and Mark are not able to join us today, so it's just us two back to the original crew. Uh,
Yeah,
so
it's like a throwback
yeah,
episode.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess some housekeeping. Yeah, we're apologies for the lack of consistency in terms of um, uh, episodes, but yeah, we're working through some stuff, working through our schedule, and trying to realign. But the important thing is today we are back in back in the war room, so we are going to continue off of our draft grade series. I know it's kind of crazy. We're but by the time it feels like by the time we're done with this, it'll be like 2 months since the draft had passed, and we're still
And
working
we're
on grades.
we're closer
But
to like the NBA draft right now than we are the NFL draft.
seriously, facts. But yeah, so we're gonna be doing part two of the NFC. We went through we're going in alphabetical order for the NFC, and then we're gonna go through and do alphabetical order for the AFC starting next week, hopefully. But so we're picking back up with the Minnesota Vikings today, and we're going all the way down to the Commanders, and then yeah, so next week's going to be the ASC. Um, but a lot has happened, man. It's
Mhm.
been a busy month. So I guess
For
a busy
sure.
couple months because we've been so MIA from the show lately. So uh what have you been up to, Yush? Inform our
I
listeners.
mean, I
What's a
mean, I
day in
moved.
the life of
That's
Ayush Kasaju? Yeah, there you go.
yeah, that's the biggest thing that's happened.
Important.
I moved from Dallas to Atlanta for work, so now I'm situated in my one bedroom apartment in Atlanta. Kind of got a setup going. You can see my unmade bed over here with all my stuff on it that I have to move to fit my laptop on here. Uh, I still need to set up like my living room and stuff. Yeah, I don't have a couch or anything. I eat dinner on the
Mm.
floor so far, so still
Put a new
gotta
one. Just get a lawn chair and call it a day.
low key. That's what I've been thinking about. But I got my girlfriend coming next week,
Get
and I got a
another lawn
friend
chair then.
coming. I got a friend
Okay, get a
coming.
third lawn chair. Bro,
Okay, low
lawn
key,
chair is
you're
the
right.
cheap.
Yeah,
Yeah, that this
yeah,
is
lawn chair.
that's the right way to go financially. I think
Yeah,
Dave Ramsey would approve.
and then also you can just set it whenever you want to sit on the balcony. You can just move the lawn chair out to the balcony. You don't have to get extra chairs to the
Yeah.
balcony either. So. I need
Dang.
to I need to add that to my Amazon cart now instead of looking for couches and things like that. So save me a bunch of money too. Rent rent is crazy. It was kind of nice living with my parents. I miss that now. Now having to pay for everything myself. So but
Yeah,
but yeah, that's life, I guess.
valid. All right. Well, we're gonna run the intro and then we're gonna get straight into it with our draft grades NFC part two. All right. Minnesota Vikings. Um, let's see what did they do. So with they first round they brought in Donovan Jackson, Ohio State guard. Ty Felton in the third rounds, Maryland receiver, um, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, Georgia defensive lineman. I think he's more like a three tag, 4 eye type of guy, but ESPN has him listed as an edge. They got him first pick of the fifth round. Kobe King, Penn State linebacker in the sixth round. Gavin Bartholomew, Pittsburgh tight ends in the sixth round. Uh, Ayush, what are your thoughts?
I think overall it's really just kind of a boring draft class. Honestly, nothing really pops out when looking at it at first glance. They addressed most of their needs. I feel like they could have gone defense a little earlier. Obviously they didn't have a ton of like earlier picks, but Ty Felton, I didn't really feel like was a need that they really needed to address. And there are a decent amount of defensive players. Um, across the board that I feel like they could have gone with, but I feel like they're really into just getting a bunch of good receivers. So um, now they got a bunch of receivers. Donovan Jackson is a good pickup, especially after losing. Or I think I got that mixed up. I don't have the depth chart in front of me. Did they lose a bunch of O linemen or did they get a bunch of O linemen? It was like the Colts lost two of their guys. Oh my God, I'm blanking. Let me look at this real quick. Because they brought in Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. I had them switched up in my head. So that's even kind of more mediocre for me because I guess that's why I gave it a C minus a month
Well,
ago.
they
But
lost Bradbury, so I think the only swap out here is
mm,
they swapped out Kelly for Bradbury, which isn't a bad swap at all. That's pretty. I mean,
it's
yeah,
about
pretty
even, I would
neutral
say.
swap. And then
Yeah,
you just upgrade the guard position basically on both sides.
yeah. So uh, it was a need that they needed to address for sure. But I mean, I think the main reason that I kind of looked at this draft class and gave it a C minus was um, kind of addressing less pressing needs in the earlier on, like the Ty Felton pick. Uh, Mainly, I mean, that third round pick you could have used to get a bigger piece on the defensive side of the ball, but now their wide receiver room I feel is a little overcrowded. They brought Rondell Moore in the offseason as well. And then obviously have the top three with Jefferson, Addison, and Naylor. So it'll be interesting to see how all that gets put together. The end of it with Ingram, Dawkins, and King, I thought those two guys really. Kobe King, if I remember, I don't know if I'm thinking, maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but he was a top prospect at one point. Is it him
No,
or?
you're thinking of his brother. His brother was Kalen King. Yeah,
Oh,
Kobe's
Kalen
stock
King is on
was
the
kind of
Packers.
neutral all the way through. So where he went was
I see.
pretty
Okay,
much what was expected
gotcha.
since 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I mean it's a good depth piece. I know Kalen King is on the Packers, and he there's like big talk about him potentially breaking out. So maybe he'll follow in his brother's footsteps with that. But overall, I mean, it's a very lukewarm, unenticing type of draft in my eyes from the Vikings.
No, yeah, I second that. It's a I was pretty underwhelmed by it. I particularly starting at the top of it, Donovan Jackson. I think Donovan Jackson's a good player. I wouldn't have touched him until mid-second round, to be honest. I feel like this was a pick that if let's see, so yeah, I feel like this is a pick that um I feel like the Vikings may have been looking into trading up for Tyler Booker potentially, and I think that they were just like, okay, this is the next best guy and along that type of uh, field of work in terms of play
Hmm,
style. So
I
I
see.
think they just really wanted this type of player, and I think they forced it as a result. But yeah, Donovan Jackson is a good player, but I would have not touched him until mid-second round. Ty Felton, not a fan of that selection either. I agree with you. Not even just because of need, it's also just value. I don't think Ty was worthy of this type of draft stock getting picked late, even in late third round. I wouldn't have touched him until the day three, but they go bring in Ty Felton, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. I'm okay with that. Day three was a little bit more cleaned up, but I think
Hmm.
overall they did a lot better of a job during free agency, beefing up the offensive line. And I'm not gonna. I'll give credit where credit's due. The offensive line in general looks pretty good now. This is the best offensive line I think I've seen in Minnesota in years. Darisaw,
Hmm.
Donovan Jackson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, Brian O'Neill. That's pretty stout O line. You have um, a young quarterback who's basically a rookie. You have weapons for him on
Hmm.
offense. There's it's a formidable or I mean more than formidable defense. This defense was really good last year, and On paper, this is a really good team. We'll see. I feel like the Vikings have very frequently had a good team, and have underperformed when it matters. So we'll see where this takes them. But yeah, draft wise, not a huge fan. I gave him a C. Ayush, what did you give him?
I gave them a C minus.
Gotcha. All right. So Saints. Let me navigate over to them. Okay. Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle / offensive guard. I personally graded him as an offensive guard. Um, they select him in the first round at pick 9. Tyler Shuck, obviously that's the blockbuster one, especially now that Derek Carr is since retired. Shuck is expected to take over the reins of QB1 in New Orleans. Louisville quarterback, they picked him in the second round. Vernon Broughton, Texas defensive tackle in the third round. Jonas Sanker, Virginia safety in the third round. Danny Stutzman, Oklahoma linebacker, fourth round. Also in the fourth round, they get Quincy Riley, Louisville corner. Sixth round, Devin Neal, Kansas running back. Seventh round, Maliki Matavo, UCLA tight end. Seventh round, they also get Fadil Diggs, Syracuse edge rusher. I'll start this one out. So, I mean, Kelvin Banks, he's a good player. I personally view that as a reach going and grabbing him in at pick 9. Not a huge fan of that. Whenever they took him, I honestly had a little bit of a sigh of relief at that point in time for being a Cowboys fan because it felt very much like Kelvin Banks was potentially going to be the pick at 12. It just felt very Jerry like, and then they go and pick Booker, which I've learned to be okay with. And I actually had a higher grade on Booker if I'm not mistaken over Banks, anyways. Yeah, I still view. Long story short, I think Kelvin Banks is a little bit of a reach here at 9. Good player. We'll figure out. Let's see. I want to look at their depth chart and see where they have him listed because I personally think that long term he is a guard, and I guess they can't. Well,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah, they have him listed as left tackle, but I mean, this is all speculative because we haven't gotten into the point of the year where we actually know this stuff. But yeah, our lads has him listed as left tackle. Trevor Penning is the left guard. And then, yeah, so interesting that Dylan Radins isn't starting. I feel like Radins could start over Penning, but Tyler Shuck, grab him in the second round. Really not a fan of that pick. I know there was a lot of hype down the stretch for Tyler Shuck. I didn't fully see it. I see the kind of blueprint with him. I see the potential, but there's a difference between like going all in on a high upside type of player and going all in on a high upside type of player that it's just so much in between to be able to get them to that level. Like whenever we're talking about these types of players that have just this brutal injury history, he's coming out of college he's 26 years old and he's finally getting drafted. Uh, just go transferring from school to school. He's a smart dude. I think he had like 4 degrees or something, unless I
No
don't think
way.
I'm mistaken that. Yeah, he's pretty decked out on that end, but uh I just don't see the vision there with him. I don't think the Saints are in a position yet to be able to like this is the type of player that you draft if you have an A tier type of roster. Or even if you have we were just talking about the Vikings, even if you had the O line that the Vikings had rebuilt, a decent running back room and the weapons that JJ McCarthy has, that would be more understandable. But Tyler Shuck is just not the Saints roster is not ready to have a quarterback like Tyler Shuck come into the picture. Not a big fan of that. Vernon Broughton, He got a little bit more steam as we went along in the draft process. Still, early third round is kind of bonkers to me. I don't see that at all. Joe Sanker, that's a decent pick. Down the board, I think day three got a lot better, particularly with the Devin Neal pick. Getting him in the sixth round was a steal. I interviewed him at the Senior Bowl. Great dude, and even better player. Really like how he performed on the field these past 2 years, particularly 2 years ago. His film this last year dipped a little bit, but not enough for me to wait till the sixth round to get him. That's wild. Um, so
Mhm.
I mean, overall, yeah, this day three uh, process for them came along a lot better. Otherwise, the day one and day two, yeah, selections were really messy. So I gave them a C. What was your synopsis of the Saints draft? Ayush?
Yeah, I think it was kind of all over the place, like you said. I feel like I honestly kind of like the Banks pick. There's been kind of this uncertainty with their O line, especially the left side of it. And I think Calvin Banks kind of hopefully provides some stability to that. He did a great job at Texas. I think he could bring that to the NFL. Um, like you said with Shuck, that was just a crazy pick. Even the day of, and still looking back at it now. Um, there were better picks out there that you could go with. I don't know if they made this pick with the fact that they might not have Derek Carr for not just this season but ever in mind. But I mean that's who they went with. Um, so I mean I think they see him more as I don't know why they would take him in the second, but it feels like he's just going to be more of kind of a bridge quarterback while they kind of continue to construct the rest of the roster, and then depending where they pick next year, they might be in range for um, a Nussmeier, a Klubnik, a Manning, somewhere around that range, you know. So that second round with that was the big pick that kind of just ruined their draft grade as a whole, honestly.
Yeah.
Um,
My struggle. See, I just don't know how it would be a bridge pick though, because
that's
this
what I'm
isn't
saying because
like
it's a second round pick.
well. Also, though, it's not a. This isn't a guy that's plug and play ready. This is a guy that you're doing the Anthony Richardson type of process for him. But I
Really,
mean,
for a
you can't.
26-year-old?
Yes, which is the thing that scares me.
Hmm.
Like this is a quarterback who has played so many snaps, so much time on the field, and you're still seeing so many mental processing woes that remind me of offsides, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the kid's name? The Auburn player. Oh, I can't even remember his
It
name.
was wasn't it Marvin Wilson or something?
Marvin Will yeah, Florida State kid,
Yeah,
not Auburn. Yeah, Marvin
yeah.
Wilson, poor dude. Uh, no one will ever understand what I mean by that, but except for Alec. But yeah, that's the thing that I struggle with Tyler Shuck is he has not taken the steps necessary to develop into this like three read type of quarterback, gets to the third read, fires it away. He's someone that he doesn't go through progressions. He's a little erratic. He's really all about size, build, the physical aspect of the game. He has a cannon for an arm, but he can't consistently throw it accurately. So I'm just like, you add that on top of the fact that the injury history is really severe. I just don't see how a totally unready quarterback could be that, but it almost might have to be. So
Hmm.
it just feels like such a forced
Yes.
pick. I feel like someone was like banging on the table for him, was like, this guy's going to be a legend, and they're just like, okay, screw it. But I really feel like this could be something where they come back in a year and they're like, we really messed up, and
Yep.
we could have done so many other things with that pick, but we went and got a quarterback. Uh, and obviously they needed a quarterback, whether Derek Carr was going to play or not this year. But This just wasn't the guy. It was a very much forced pick, and I would have just waited it out, used this pick on anything else really. You could have they have a messy roster, but you could have waited this out, gotten your quarterback next year, and probably had an
Yeah.
early pick to do it. So I don't get it. Anyways, go
I,
ahead.
I mean, even then, like I know this wasn't like the strongest quarterback class, but there were so many other quarterbacks available that are like consensusly better, at least in my eyes, I guess, not
Yeah. No, I
consensusly,
think
but
Shador. Obviously, there's a question marks with Shador's character, but I think Shador would have made a lot of sense with the
mhm.
Saints.
I mean, if they even if they didn't like Shador, I mean, basically every single quarterback was still on the board outside of Cam Ward
Yeah,
um and Jackson
Dart.
Dart. So I mean, they had a pretty good pick of the litter. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, if I was going this route where I'm getting the honestly, what I would have done is I would have waited till the third round, even if you needed to get him at early in the third with the pick you ended up getting Vernon Broughton. Like if you're talking bridge quarterback, maybe go get Dylan Gabriel,
Mhm.
um, and just call it a day. Second round, you could have done anything else, beefed up the D line, added some more weapons, whatever. But yeah, I don't get it. So
Yeah, there's so many D linemen that actually went after the Shuck pit. Like TJ Sanders was immediately after. Alfred
mm.
Collins, Ezeruku, uh, JT Tulua something from Ohio State,
Oh, I would. I think I
uh,
would have liked that pick a lot for them for the Saints.
Scorton,
Been the Cam Jordan replacement eventually.
Oladeju, Mike Green, and Shamar Turner, all second round, and Norman Lott, all went second round after
Yeah,
Chuck was taken. So it's just very
yeah.
interesting
See,
what they might see in him.
yeah. I would have loved JT Tuimoloau out to be picked there at 40. That would have been a great
Mhm.
fit in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, while we're still talking about the defense, like, I feel like they didn't do a bad job of drafting like their defensive player. They took four straight.
Mhm.
I don't think they did a bad job there. I think they're all kind of guys that can be solid like rotational pieces and within the lineup. I mean, their defense isn't super like top heavy, but I feel like the depth is really solid, especially on the D line. Um, we got Chase. Uh, is it Gacho from New England that they got?
Mm.
God Cho?
Yeah,
I don't even know how to
good show.
pronounce it.
I
I've
don't
never heard
know.
of him. But
I have no
I've seen him
idea.
do some good things. I just never heard his name said out loud. But um,
Yeah.
I mean, Cam Jordan's still there. Kalen Saunders still there. So I mean, it's a deep group in the D line. Um, Same thing with the linebackers, I think as well. Now they bring Stutzman in with Pete Werner, who I feel like we're still kind of waiting for him to really do something, but he was taken pretty high as well a couple years back. Damari Davis is still pretty good. Um, so I mean, you just add a couple of pieces throughout the defense at all layers to kind of add some depth and add some rotational value through there, which I really like. I don't really know about the tight end. I just looked him up. He's a big dude, 6'6", 2 something, 263. So he's really big. But um, so you just re-signed Juwan Johnson. Um, and I mean, you're expecting him to do big things with the contract that you gave him. You still have Foster Moreau. Taysom Hill is technically a tight end. So I guess you just add another big body to that room, which I mean, in the seventh round, you can't really be mad at. And then Fadil Diggs in the seventh round. I remember it at A&M, and I thought he would he was pretty good. I think he was a team captain at one point. His last year at A&M before he went to Syracuse. So I thought he was doing really, really nice stuff there before he left. So I'm surprised he went seventh. I think that's a good value pick there.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
he's obviously just another good rotational piece that you can add into that D line. So I think they ended really, really solid with the draft. But like I said before, that Shuck pick really just it's kind of mind-boggling compared to everything else that they did in this draft.
Yeah. Um, All right, let's move on to the Giants. So the Giants had one of the blockbuster drafts of this class, um, both in the sense of being one of the better classes, one of the better draft classes that we saw, but also in the sense that it is one of the more flashy classes. Obviously, they brought in the quarterback, but you have the blockbuster trade to pair with that. You stay put and you get Abdul Carter at 3, and you don't move Kayvon Thibodeau. A lot of interesting aspects to this draft, but let's do the rundown here really quick. Third overall, you get Abdul Carter, Penn State edge rusher, uh, who is widely regarded by many as the best player in this draft. Uh, at 25, you trade up, you get Jackson Dart, Ole Miss quarterback. You have your quarterback of the future. Top of the third round, you bring in Darius Alexander, Toledo defensive tackle. Top of the fourth, you bring in Cam Scadaboo, Arizona State running back. Mid fifth, you somehow get Marcus Bowe, Purdue offensive lineman. I don't know how you get him in the mid fifth round, but that's a heck of a steal there. Thomas Fedone, near the top of the seventh round, Nebraska tight end. Corey Black, Oklahoma State corner, late seventh. So, how about you start this one off, Yush?
Yeah, I mean, I really like this draft class overall. I mean, Abdul Carter getting him at 3, I think is a great snag with all the talks of him potentially being the number 1 pick. They obviously kind of went for just best available, which I mean, when you're up that high in the draft, I'm not necessarily mad about. I mean, it's like if you're a top 3 pick and you take some O lineman because you need him more than potentially the best player in the draft, that would be a little um, iffy. But I mean, I think that was the right play from them to just take the best available player, which was Abdul Carter. Um, Let me look at Jackson Dart. Obviously, is a great pick. I think it's a good situation to be in as well. You get 2 veteran quarterbacks around you with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. And I think going into the draft, I was kind of saying that Dart is kind of a player that has a lot of the tools, uh, and he just kind of needs to get them refined, kind of focus more on the mental aspect of the game, getting better at decision making. Um, because I mean I've heard this a lot where people say that the scheme at Ole Miss was kind of just like everything was schemed up for him, like his reads and everything like that. Lane Kiffin kind of um, made it easier for him to kind of just get the ball exactly where he needed to go and
Yep.
make sure that things stayed clean for him by kind
It's
of
a yeah,
manufacturing the offense in that sort of way, you know.
yeah.
So
It's a
um,
1-2 read run type of
mhm,
offense. And
yeah,
that's how a lot of that's the same way as um, the Tennessee offense as well. It's so basic and it's great for college football, but for like in terms of, for the team being able to have success, but in terms of these prospects, particularly the quarterbacks and receivers, it's always a weird transition for these guys. So yeah, I agree.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's just a great situation for him to be able to kind of learn instead of being just thrown in from the get go if he had gone like number 1 to the Titans or something like that. But um, and then Darius Alexander was a guy that potentially could have gone mid second, even a little bit higher. So I think getting him at early third was really solid. Scatabo, I think, is a great pick as well. Had a lot of value kind of come around him during that playoff run. Um, but I think it'll be kind of interesting to see how the split is between him and Tracy and Singletary. Um, and I think they still have what's his name? Yeah, Eric
Tracy.
Gray, who had
Oh,
a little bit
oh,
of playing time as well. Yeah, Tracy's obviously the one I think there for now.
yeah.
Um, but I think I'm just interested in seeing how that kind of running back room shapes up in terms of who's getting what type of carries and how many carries. But I think Scatabo can probably enter as the number 2 back um, to start the season and kind of split those carries with Tracy there. Um, yeah, like you were saying with Marcus Abo, uh, he was really solid. I don't know a whole lot about him in terms of seeing him play. I just know that a lot of talks of him being a little higher than he was in terms of just mock drafts and things that I was reading before the draft. Just that's a name that I remember being a lot higher. Um, so I mean, getting him in the fifth, either that's a good thing or it could be a really bad thing. I think taking a late flyer on a player that's supposed to get higher is never a bad thing in the draft. And then you address some concerns or roster concerns at the end of the draft with a tight end and a corner. Obviously, they're probably not going to be super big into the rotation, but kind of filling spots and getting a little more competition in those rooms are not a bad thing at all. So overall, I mean, especially the top of the draft, I think they did a really great job, especially um, with Dable on the hot seat, with what's this with Joe? Is it Schoen or Shoon? I think it's
Shane.
Schoen. It's Shane.
Yeah.
Ew, that's not how it's spelled at all. I don't like that. But
I'm
yeah,
pretty sure
with both of them
that's
on the
how
hot
I've always
seat,
referred to it.
it's like SCH.
Yeah, Shane. It's
Oh,
Joe Shane is the pronunciation.
interesting. I don't like that. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, they're both like big time on the hot seat this year. I think they did a really good job of kind of maybe extending their lifespan in the NFL for a little bit with getting guys that they'll kind of hold them up for a little bit. So overall, I gave them, I think, an A. Let me look. Yeah, I gave them an A for this draft.
No, yeah, this is a good draft. Uh, I think one thing that was really interesting to me though was that Kayvon Thibodeau is not going anywhere because as soon as
Hmm.
they drafted Abdul Carter, they picked up the 5th year on Thibodeau. They're not trading him. I thought that he would have been a brilliant trade asset for the Jackson Dart trade when it because that was a pretty well understood move that could happen is that they would move up for Jackson Dart. I think whenever they made the trade, there were some initial expectations that's like, oh, maybe now that somehow Shador's still here, it'd be Shador. But yeah, ultimately, long term leading up to it, there was a lot of expectation that that the Giants were going to make a move like this to be able to go get their quarterback, especially whenever you have your GM and your head coach on the hot seat. What did they trade? They traded their second round pick 34. They traded 99 and they traded a 2026 third to be able to move up. I I almost wonder if you could have just done your 2 Thibodeau and like a 4 or 5 and just slide on up there. So I think you could have saved yourself a couple picks in there. I just look at this edge rush room, and it's remarkable. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
but if I'm looking at, so you have Brian Burns, you have Abdul Carter, you have Kayvon Thibodeau, you have Chauncey Golston, who had a good year in Dallas last year. Um, gosh, that's freakishly good. That is a really good room right there. But I feel like it's almost, I mean,
You can only
I
play
I
two of them at a
personally,
time, basically.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I personally would have given up Thibodeau, back pocketed those picks maybe, and been able to go use something because the challenge isn't even like the amount of bodies in that room; it's about the money side of this, and because Thibodeau is going to be asking for a contract, and I know he just got the 5th year, but I I don't feel like he wants to wait on that contract, and I think that yeah, that's gonna be really interesting when it's all said and done. But
Do you
Jackson
think there's a
Dart,
chance that Carter plays inside?
no, no, he's also not very strong. He's Micah Parsons, but a little smaller and a little less strong.
Hmm.
Uh, so I think you want to play him off the edge. You can play him like 9 through 5 tech, blitz him up the middle a little bit. But I don't think you're gonna do what like with Dallas. I don't think you're gonna quite line him up literally at nose tackle. Sometimes I don't think that that's gonna be, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, or like more like
Because
like inside linebacker, I guess, more than nose tackle, a middle
yeah,
linebacker.
well, in theory, what do we have at linebacker here? We got Micah McFadden, Okereke. Um, mm, I don't know. I don't think they would do that though. I feel like maybe in the early portions, I guess this kind of plays against my Thibodeau conversation, but maybe they use him a little bit like Micah was used early on in his career, um,
Mhm.
where it's a little bit more of like a 70-30 split, 70 off the edge, 30 at linebacker. Obviously, Micah came in as a linebacker and he was expected to play linebacker until they found out very quickly what he was capable of doing off the edge. But I don't know. I think the real question on that end, in terms of moving these guys around, would be maybe if they want to use Chauncey Golston inside a little bit more at at teams of tackle. But Dallas also realized when with Chauncey Golston that he's an edge rusher and he should be played at 5 tech and not 3 tech, and they
Mhm.
made that mistake and basically wasted him until his final year. But I don't know. We'll see. I think that regardless, Abdul Carr is going to have a really fruitful career. Um, Jackson Dart's going to be really interesting. Yeah, I like Jackson Dart. I think I ultimately had a top 50 grade on him. Obviously you're going to get a quarterback premium here, but even so, I still kind of deploy a quarterback premium into how I evaluate quarterbacks. So you're still looking at quite the reach here, but I understand the desperate, you know, aspect of we need a quarterback now. So, um, the good thing is this is a late type of first round pick, so this is something that within the next couple years, if you find out yet again that you missed on your quarterback in the post Eli Manning era, then you can move on. But uh,
Mhm.
Darius Alexander, like that pick, Cam Scatterbo, great pick. Marcus Bowe, the M is silent. Great pick there. I seeing him play at the Senior Bowl, Marcus Bowe, that is, you can he moves really differently from most offensive linemen you'll see. It's almost like a jumbo sized tight end the way that he's able to move around. So, like he borderline has, I mean, the Darnell Washington type of athleticism where he's just silky in his movements. His hips are fluid. His legs are moving. Feet are quick. And I like that about him. The problem with him is that he doesn't have this functional strength to be able to sit in there and hang in, and which is yeah, I don't think that he's going to be able to anchor down as much at the pro level. I think we're going to see a little bit more of the challenges of him being a less bulked up, thinner type of offensive lineman. But whenever it comes to the zone rush scheme, which we're probably going to see this year from the Giants, I think that he's going to rock that. So um, I like that for him. Use him as a puller. It basically, I guess, at that point, just depends on how much they end up using him because he's probably going to start off the season, maybe even play the whole season as the backup. But we'll see. There's a couple weak spots on this O line that he could maybe eventually fill into. And the great thing about him is he has 5 position versatility. So I like that about him, and getting him in the fifth truly is a great pickup. So, yeah, ultimately I gave him a minus. What was your grade, Yush?
I give him an A.
Okay, so we're pretty much on the same page there. One of the better drafts of this class. Okay, moving on to the Eagles. Um, Jahad Campbell. They get him at 31, linebacker out of Alabama. Good pick there. Got a lot of praise for the value. Andrew Makuba, Texas safety, goes last pick of the second round. Ty Robinson, Nebraska dude to tackle. In the fourth round, Mac McWilliams, UCF corner, fifth round. Smile Munden, Georgia linebacker, fifth round. Drew Kendall, Boston College center, fifth round. Go get Kyle McCord, Syracuse quarterback, in the sixth rounds. And then Miles Hinton, Michigan, offensive tackle in the sixth. Cameron Williams, Texas offensive tackle in the sixth. Antoine Powell Ryland, Virginia Tech edge rusher, also in the sixth. Uh, Another great draft pick or a draft class uh, by the Eagles. Obviously, Howie Roseman is just brilliant at his job. Um, just continues to build up this depth chart, build up the depth in general. I love how I've mentioned it so many times on the show, but I love how he constructs his teams. And he always has another guy ready to go. And I think one of those picks that was evident in that end is Cameron Williams. And what I mean by that is he's such a raw player, and everyone knows the Jack Sawyer strip sack in the playoff game. And that was
Yeah.
him lined up straight across from Cameron Williams. Cameron Williams just whiffed it, but whenever you see Cameron Williams, you see an offensive tackle build, total offensive tackle build. I don't know why he declared this year, but he could have been a first round pick if he stayed last year. Mid year, there was a lot of conversation about him even being a first round type of guy. But he was just really raw and he didn't take off after that. He actually started to regress as the season went along. But you get him on on the Philadelphia Eagles on a Howie Roseman led team with the coaching staff that they have, especially along the O line. I mean, that just seems like it seems like no other team could. He's the type of player that I don't see any other team being able to do the type of dirty work that that the Eagles are going to be able to do with Cameron Williams. Uh, I think that he could actually eventually take a jump and become a guy. Jahad Campbell, great pickup. You get your kind of hunter of a linebacker, someone that can just roam and chase. And somehow, in a matter of 2 years, they were able to flip that entire position. Like literally this time last year, we were worried about the linebacker room, and we thought it was going to be one of the weaknesses of this team. And now you have Zach Bond, Jahad Campbell, Nakobe Dean, Jeremiah Trotter, Smile Munden. This is a really great unit. And you get to pair that on top of the fact that this edge rush room is really great. Obviously, everyone knows that. And I know that there was a little bit of, there's a little bit of moving around here because, the number of guys are retiring and moving on. So there's a lot, it's a lot more youth on this defensive line, but there's a lot of talent, and you're able to just compile that with this linebacker room. This top seven front seven is brilliant. And then obviously we were able to see the ascension of Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean this past year. And I really like how they took care of business in this draft class. And I think that I think this roster, I don't think I really see the Eagles taking a big step back at all this year. I think that this is going to be a team that is going to be right there in the mix again this next year. So I gave them I gave them a B plus. I kind of just talked myself out of it. I'm going to give them a A minus for this draft. So
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a lot of really good points there. I really like this draft class too. Overall, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do coming off a Super Bowl to really bring in prospects that are going to make an impact immediately. But I feel like they really did that with John Campbell, because that's what the Eagles have been able to do is just get a guy that they either fall somewhere, they do a really good job of getting the guy that they want. So Campbell, I think, is going to be fit in really well. They're going to be able to play him wherever they really feel like, honestly, throughout that defense, wherever he plays best or wherever they need him to play. And then I think the rest of this draft, just as a whole, really is just kind of filling in the depth of this roster, honestly.
yeah.
So, because I mean, the top of the roster is obviously stacked. They just won a Super Bowl with, I guess, a majority of these guys on the roster. So, I mean, they restructured basically their entire second string O line. They brought in two guys through the draft, and Kendall and Hinton, and then you trade for Kenyon Green from Houston, and then Matt Pryor and Kendall Lamb also come in. And then defensively, I mean, just all across the board, just a bunch of guys that are going to be able to kind of wait on the sidelines, but also be able to soak in a bunch of stuff from the top guys. Makuba, I think, is a guy that could potentially start this year, honestly. But he'll probably wait a year before seeing how either, one of these safeties might not re-sign or something like that. He'll re-sign, or Bakuba will be the top guy in a year, and then Ty Robinson going to be able to be a relief guy for D line, just like, oh my goodness, who was the one that just left to the Patriots on a big money? Who kind of just, I forgot his name, but
Oh,
the same thing that he
I can't remember. Oh my gosh, it's gonna drive me crazy. One second, let me
did for real.
grab that. Milton Williams.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of had that same rise where he um, kind of just came out of nowhere in my eyes, just kind of waited until the time that he was going to be brought into play, and then made a big impact immediately when he got his time. So I think Ty Robinson can be that same type of guy. Um, I don't know how much playing time he'll get this season, as I will say with a bunch of these other guys in the later rounds, but these are all guys that I feel like are just going to be able to be developed by this coaching staff as they've been able to do with a lot of um, their past prospects and players. Um, and then, yeah, Kyle McCord, I think they just brought in because they felt like it. I talked about Kyle McCord like he was really something. I think he could be a really solid player in the NFL, and kind of have a long career just kind of floating around like someone like Josh McCown did or something like that.
He feels like a Case
Um,
Keenum type of figure.
exactly, yeah.
Like I feel like he could
Um,
have that same exact type of career arc.
I feel like being on a team like the Eagles kind of stunts that, because McKee, I think they really like McKee, and what he's done for him as a backup. They brought in Dorian Thompson Robinson as well. He kind of sucks in my opinion, but he's there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think McCord will have some more opportunities to kind of learn and grow there, and I think hopefully he'll get a chance to have kind of that Minshew run, and then be kind of that floater around the league to kind of just bridging young guys, being um, that guy that sticks around for a long time doing his thing as a backup or something like that. But overall, like you said, um, just a really well done draft class and kind of addressing um, their future and kind of the depth of this team. So I think as long as a lot of these guys develop well and progress well, I think they're setting themselves up well for not just this upcoming season, but for plenty of times after that. Um, I ended up giving a B minus. I think the reason I did that was because of I think it was a lack of just top end talent. I mean, they got two guys in the top two rounds that I said were starter potential, but a lot of the draft was just kind of filling in their depth, which once again is not a bad thing. I think just kind of at the time I put a B minus. I'm gonna stick to it just because I can, but um, but yeah,
I
just
won't
I
hate.
think
Any
yeah,
Eagles hate here is very much tolerated.
yeah, exactly. They
We
beat the
allow
Packers in
that
the
here.
playoffs too, so um, we can hate on them for a little bit, but yeah, I think they. I mean, yeah,
Um, all right, so San Francisco 49ers. They bring in Michael Williams, Georgia edge rusher at 11, pick 11. Alfred Collins, Texas defensive tackle, second round. Nick Martin, Oklahoma State linebacker, third round. Upton Stout, Western Kentucky corner, third round. CJ West, Indiana defensive tackle in the fourth. Uh, Jordan Watkins, Ole Miss wide receiver in the fourth. Jordan James, Oregon running back in the fifth. Marquise Sigil, Kansas State safety in the fifth. Curtis Rourke, Indiana quarterback in the seventh. Connor Colby, Iowa guard, and Junior Bergen, Montana wide receiver, all in the seventh. Not a fan, to be honest, man. I think they could have very well traded back. Maybe. Me personally, I would have traded back, and when it comes to Michael Williams, I would have traded back like 6 picks. But I guess the thing we got to factor in there is if anyone wanted to pick up the phone. But if I was able to get someone to bite on Michael Williams, trade back 6-7 spots, maybe still get him, maybe not, and then maybe go pick up Shamar Turner or Shamar Stewart, same type of caliber of guy. I would have done that. I would have gone that route, but like this is a team that has so many holes, and we've talked about this so many times over the offseason. This team is messed up right now. You're paying so many top end guys, and you just lose all these big name, valuable, almost like Robin to Batman type of guys. Greenlaw's Robin to Fred Warner's Batman, so on and so forth. You lose Debo Samuel. Um, you lose just a number of guys across the board. And I, yeah, I really personally would have really valued trading back, getting a lot of picks, whether it's for this year, whether it's for next year. And I think they're just continuing to dig themselves a hole when you see the Brock Purdy deal. Um, just so much money being thrown out to some of these guys, and obviously a number of these guys are really good players, but I think at some point this team needs to really value the youth aspect, because the majority of their team is just really very much out of their prime. So I think that they kind of continue to neglect that in a sense this year, in the sense that they could have acquired more picks. But they chose against that. But yeah, Alfred Collins. Overall, I like the emphasis on defense. I just wish that they could have gone a couple of different routes here. Like I said, trading back. Maybe I personally wasn't huge on Michael Williams. I like Shamar Stewart more, and that's the same brand of player there. You're getting your jumbo-sized elite defensive end type of build. Uh, Not a lot of production, but you have a lot of potential. Uh, Great athlete type of guys, tone setters in the run game, with upside as pass rushers. Um, but I really like the CJ West pick. That was a good value pick in the 4th round. Connor Colby in the 7th round. Uh, yeah, I just in general, personally, I'm very much against this thought process of a draft class.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think a lot of it was for me is that they could have gotten someone better at the pick they were at.
Yeah,
Um, Michael Williams, I'm honestly not totally against that pick for him. I think you had a decent, um, a really good off the edge guy to complement Nick Bosa, especially after losing. Uh, I'm just blanking on everyone's names today, bro.
Chase Young.
Uh,
Well,
yeah,
no, Chase.
Chase Young,
No,
Greenlaw.
Chase Young was
Uh,
last year. Wait, hold up. Was Chase Young last year? My mind
yeah,
is a
Chase Young's been
mess.
gone.
Yeah, I
Greenlaw
don't
was the
know.
one that just left, right? Am I
Yeah,
tripping?
they also lost Hargrave.
Yeah, Hargrave.
Um, oh, did they lose Eric Armstead? Oh, that was last year too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
Armstead's been
what
gone.
did a year just like disappear from my brain? I don't know, man.
Basically, yeah, I guess so.
I'm
But
forgetting
yeah, I
everything.
mean, I'm not mad at that pick. I think a lot of these middle rounds, I think they could have done better on, especially just with the guy. I mean, they took Alfred Collins a pick before as a Ruku. Um, it's that same range that we were talking about with Shuck, is that there are a lot of guys after that I think that they could have taken that are better picks at that position. Um, I mean, then the 3rd round, you took Nick Martin over Siobhan Rebel, um, who I think, and Jordan Birch, who I really liked as well. Those are 2 guys that I think um, probably wouldn't. I don't really know too much about Nick Martin, but I feel like since I don't know too much about him, that the other guys surely have to be better. That's my mindset
I'm
about it.
not. Nick Martin's not that good. I don't. I That was one of the bigger surprises of day 2 for me.
Yeah. And then, I mean, later in that round, they took Upton Stout. They got Savion Jones. Right, I went right after him. CJ West, Cody Simon went a couple rounds. I just know off the name value, honestly. Billy Bowman. Uh, you could have gone and gotten the tight end for the future as well. Gunnar Helm was there a couple picks after, who I really like. Who do they have in the tight end room right now? Yeah, I mean it's just Kittle. I mean they signed Kittle recently, didn't they, to like a huge
Yeah.
deal, and
Yes.
then Luke Farrell. Yeah, I mean they're just kind of they're really in the gutter right now financially, I think. Um, and then yeah, just keep going down the draft class. I mean Jordan James, that's a solid pick for him. Jordan Watkins, also a pretty decent pick for the position. Jeffrey Bassa was there a couple. I mean, they already got their linebacker, but I really like Bassa. I think fifth is a steal for him. I just realized Kansas City got him in the fifth. I feel like that's a really good pick. I mean, yeah, just scrolling through just this draft class as an entirety, I feel like um, they could have gotten better players at the position they're at. It's not that they didn't address needs. It's not that they didn't address needs. I mean, that's really all you can do, but for them, but um, they're just better players throughout the board that they could have gotten instead of the guys that they got to really set them up for the future. So I mean, overall, it's just kind of a mediocre draft class for me. If they can get the best out of these players, then that's a good thing for them. But the players from how I see them where they're at, these are a lot of guys that are just um, rotational guys, a lot of depth depth pieces. Oh, my mouth is so dry right now, bro. I ran out of water, but yeah. So yeah, overall, just a really mediocre draft in my eyes. So I think I ended up giving him a C. I give him a D. Um, I think mainly because of what I just looking at my thought process. I think it's just because of who they could have gotten at the picks they were at, but they passed on them for other players instead.
Man, I just made the connection that they with the Bryce Huff acquisition the other day, they also
Mhm.
inherit the contract too. So I don't know what their thought
I
process is
honestly don't
here.
know what Bryce Huff's contract is.
He it
I know
was
that.
it was a $51 million contract over 3 years. So
No, yeah,
uh
okay. And he's
yeah,
barely
just
played for the
another
Eagles last year.
yeah. So you're just inheriting another $17 million a year contract when you
Mhm.
have no money. I just don't get it. I don't know how much. I guess there's a shot that a percentage of that they didn't inherit, but I gotta believe that
Yeah.
they're probably taking on the entirety of next year's portion of the contract. But
Mhm.
unless it's very much front
It's
loaded, it could be. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, they. It's just astounding to me how they're using their resources right now. I just don't get it. Um, and it
yeah,
just does not feel very fruitful for a team that was just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago now.
yeah,
To be just throwing out money, not really emphasizing um, the. I really feel like their draft process is getting really wonky right now, and that's just a couple
mhm,
years removed from the fact that they brought in the Brock Purdy in the seventh round, a number of other picks as well, but over the years. But yeah, these past couple years have been slowing down in terms of the schematic aspect of the draft. The prioritization of youth is really messy. So, not a fan
yeah.
of that. And I
Lynch
think
might be on
that's
the hot seat soon, honestly.
yeah, I think it's possible unless this is a process because I think I will note that we have seen this team go in waves. We've seen this
But
team uh we've seen this team like be really good, then suddenly really bad, and then suddenly really good again. But this kind of structure, this process just feels really weird. You don't go and pay a quarterback what was it, $50 million a year if you're planning on going through a rebuild. You don't have uh what, a 29-year-old running back and a 30-year-old tight end and a 30 something year old left tackle uh if you're and continue to pay them if you're going through a rebuild. It just doesn't make sense to me. So um yeah, I don't know.
bro,
um
I'm like looking at the contract
hmm.
stuff for Purdy. He's making his cap hit is $72.5 million in 2029.
Yeah, you know what,
Uh,
that would actually play into to a rebuild then. If you're thinking about it, because maybe they're just trying to pay, maybe they're paying out those contracts. I haven't looked at how these contracts are structured, but maybe they're paying out the contracts and giving them big time top dollar money this year just to be able to pay them lesser on the tail end of that, if that makes sense. Which would schematically
Yeah.
actually, now that I
I mean,
think about it, would schematically not be that bad.
for Brock, it looks like it's backloaded. Well, hold on.
How is that possible though if he's getting 70 something this year? That
In
would be really weird.
2029. In 2029.
Oh, he's getting 70 in 2029?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then that's weird.
Hold
That
on
makes
one
no
second.
sense to me.
I made a Walmart order like 4 hours ago, and it's just now getting here, so they're calling me. So I'm gonna mute myself for a second. You can yap for a bit, but
All
I
right,
need to go
I'm
pick
gonna
up my
I'm
order.
gonna get to yapping. Anyways, all right. So I gave him a C. I each gave him a D. The Seattle Seahawks, they bring in Gray Zabel in the first round at pick 18. North Dakota State on the guard. I was a big fan of his for a pretty large majority of time leading up to the draft. Nick Emenwari, South Carolina safety, goes near the top of the second round. Elijah Arroyo, Miami tight ends, mid-second round pick there. Jalen Milrow, Alabama quarterback. That's an interesting one that they brought in mid-third round, especially considering the fact that you just paid Sam Darnold. So that's one of the more eyebrow raising picks. Not one that's necessarily bad in my eyes, but it is notable. Riley Mills, Notre Dame, due to the tackle in the early fifth round. Torrey Horton, Colorado State wide receiver, picked late in the fifth. Robbie Utes, that's a name that I have not been able to figure out yet. But Alabama tight ends, late fifth round there. Bryce Cabeldu, Kansas offensive tackle, mid sixth round pick there. Damian Martinez, Miami running back, early seventh. Mason Richmond, Iowa offensive tackle, mid seventh round pick. Ricky White, UNLV wide receiver, late seventh round pick there. Uh, this is a good class. I'm a big fan of Gray Zabel, so I really liked that pick there at 18. Nick Emenwari was a decent pick. A lot of people hitting home leading up to the draft that he should be a first round pick. He goes to them in the early second. Elijah Arroyo, I thought that was a little bit of a reach, but I see the kind of concept with it. I think in terms of the schematics of it, he's kind of what you hoped Noah Fant would be able to kind of restore into his play set whenever you brought him in from the Broncos and the Russell Wilson trade. So I think Elijah Arroyo kind of will be able to fit what they were hoping that they could get from Fant. So I understand going out and getting your guy, even though it's a tiny bit early in my eyes. Jalen Milrow, late third. I personally am not dead set on Sam Darnold. I know a lot of people aren't, but so I'm not, kind of preaching to the choir here. But Jalen Milrow makes a lot of sense there in the late third, and that's coming from someone who graded Milrow pretty low. So I like that selection, and I'm curious what their plan is for him. But it applies pressure to Sam Darnold. It shows him that just because he got the big contract doesn't mean that he's safe, which I think is pretty important. I don't think Sam's a franchise guy that you sit there and he's your QB for the next 8 years. Um, so just applying that pressure, giving that depth chart a little bit of something behind Darnold and Drew Lock will be helpful. I like how they emphasize offensive line. They emphasize bringing in weapons, and overall, this team, this front office did a really decent job this offseason. I thought the Demarcus Lawrence uh, move was a little rich for me, coming from someone who's a Cowboys fan myself. But you bring in some new faces in the receiver room. You trade out DK Metcalf, so you don't have to worry about paying him. And I like what they were able to construct when it's all said and done. The Stevens line looks really great. So I think this is going to be a good unit. Basically, it's going to depend on how Sam Darnold's able to acclimate and if this offensive line is able to really pull it together. So we will see about that pretty soon. I gave them a B plus. Ayush gave them a B. So moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they bring in Mika Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State, a pick 19, Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame corner. In the second round, Jacob Parrish, Kansas State corner. In the third round, David Walker, Central Arkansas, edge rusher. In the fourth, Elijah Roberts, SMU, edge rusher. In the fourth, or in the fifth, Tez Johnson, Oregon, wide receiver. In the seventh, welcome back, Ayush.
I'm back.
How was your experience?
It was fun. I got a new broom.
Oh,
I
sick.
have like a robot vacuum, but it sucks. So I bought a broom, and
Nice.
see, I bought a pizza cutter because I've been cutting pizza with my knife and it sucks. So I bought a pizza cutter. I bought some frozen chicken fajita stuff for later in the week when I'm too lazy to make dinner. So I'm
There you
set for the
go.
week now.
He's set for the week.
Yep.
Anyways, we're talking about the Buccaneers. So
All right.
provide your thoughts on the Buccaneers draft class.
Let me pull it up. Okay. Okay, this is a cool little draft class. Let me look at everything real quick. Let me pull everything back up. Damn, so you got through the Seahawks without me. Dang, I didn't get to talk about the Seahawks. I don't care. Um, I'm at the top. Just looking at it, the top two picks, I really think are solid. Egbuka, I think will fill in really nicely with Godwin out and possibly be the future one. Evans is probably done in the next couple of years, and then you got Godwin, who's kind of a little questionable coming off an ACL. What is that? It's like a second ACL tear, right? I don't know if it's the same knee or something, but I'm pretty sure he's
Who are we
torn
talking
an
about?
ACL
I
before.
zoned out.
Godwin,
Godwin? Yeah, I think that's a second.
but I mean, so Ibuka will be a really nice filler for that. I mean, you got Jalen McMillan in there as well, so um, that wide receiver room is. They have Garrett Green as the wide receiver on this thing. That's crazy. That's the West Virginia quarterback, right?
Yeah, he before the draft though, he announced that he was going to enter the draft as a receiver.
Dang, what the heck?
Yeah.
I know he like runs a lot, but I didn't expect him to do all that. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then Ben Morrison in the second round. I mean, that's a guy that was getting first round hype at the beginning of the draft cycle, and that's a guy that I honestly was considering the Packers to take um, in the first round, and I was kind of rooting for in the second as well. Um, and I think that's a really, really good value player to get there. Honestly, I mean, he was taking a pick before the Packers. I think he could have gone to the Packers if the Bucks didn't want to get him. But um, yeah, I think Jacob Parrish, another corner. I think they did a really good job of kind of reinforcing that position. They've really struggled in covers for the last couple of years. I mean, their top guys are Zion McCollum, who's really kind of broken out this past season, and then Jamel Dean is. I think he's kind of fallen off in recent years. Um, Had a really good start to his career, and I think the past couple of seasons has been a little mediocre. But um, and then I honestly don't know too much about the edge rushers and Walker and Roberts, but you can never have enough edge rushers. So I think I mean you don't never know if Hassan Reddick's going to play. So you got Logan Hall still. That D line is solid, but the depth there is not really great. So you got two guys that you bring in to kind of fix that problem that you have there. And then Tez Johnson, I mean, he had really solid production in college. I think obviously his big um, dinger, I guess. The thing that dropped him the most is that the frame and the combine in general. So, but I think just as a depth receiver, I think he has some really good stuff that he can bring to the team there and potentially reach all the way up to being the fourth receiver on that depth chart at some point. So, um, I mean, overall, it's just kind of didn't have a ton of picks, so they kind of just picked where they can and did what they can. But overall, I think they did a good job of addressing needs and bringing in a good group of guys to kind of bolster that roster and kind of hopefully make that leap that they're trying to make for the past few years.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting class. I think it's really interesting that they brought in Emeka Egbuka. Considering Jalen McMillan's season last year, I thought Jalen McMillan had a really good year. So how I view that though is that they're gearing up for someone to depart soon in that
Yeah,
particular territory. But the challenge that I have with it is they just extended Godwin. How many years was Godwin's extension? It was 3 years,
probably
right?
three. Yeah, I don't know. That's
Uh,
off the top of my head,
it was
but he's probably missing
three
a whole year
years,
this year.
66 million. Is he?
Yeah,
It's gonna take that long?
most likely. Yeah, I heard at the
Okay.
end of the year, didn't he?
Um, I don't know.
Yeah, I heard 7 games in, I guess. So he'll probably be
Yeah,
back around
yeah.
mid-season, maybe around
He
week
might
8,
be.
week 9.
Yeah, he might be back a little earlier than that. Yeah. Well, Todd Bowles was saying that he thinks that Godwin could be ready week 1.
No way.
So,
That's crazy.
um, so now I'm looking at Mike Evans's contract, and he has 1 more year left, right? Or is that an extension off of? Yeah, he has 1 more year. No. Okay, so he has a void year after this year. So he has 2 more years left on him. Interesting. Am I reading that right? Think so.
So he
Yeah.
has this year
And next year.
and next year, yeah.
So yeah, I see. That just is a little odd to me because Egbuka's a great player, and I think one of the big
Mhm.
lures with him is he's also a great dude. So people wanted him in their locker room. I just don't know. Like this, that's a move that the Eagles could make, right? Like that's a move that they could basically, uh, like pre-order their wide receiver 2 years out. The Bucks are a good squad. Don't get me wrong. This is a playoff team, but this doesn't feel like a team that should be pre-ordering wide receivers because it feels like their plan is that within the next 2 years, one of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to retire. So your big three after that would be Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, and Jalen McMillan. And then
Mhm.
subsequently, you probably draft another guy, and then they pair with Egbuka and McMillan once whichever of the vets ends up retiring. So I don't fully understand this concept because, like I said, Egbuka is a good player, even better dude, but I don't feel like Egbuka is the type of dude that you just wait for. Like, like if you're in the
That's
situation
understandable.
where like a Marvin Harrison Jr. sitting there, you go pick him and you can wait. But Egbuka is not the type of guy I'm waiting to, fully unleash type of guy. And I just hate the idea of Jalen McMillan just being a fourth receiver. He's a good player. And before Dallas went out and traded for George Pickens, I was like, I think I was texting you and Alec, and I was telling y'all that I would love Jalen McMillan to be a Cowboy because after the like Buka selection. But yeah, I don't know. That's just an interesting move to me. But yeah, long story short, bring in some more depth at the edge rush position, bring in some more competition at corner. So yeah, this is a solid little class. I gave him a B. What was your grade?
I give him a B as well.
Okay, so we're eye to eye on that. Let's move on
Yep.
to the Commanders, and we're gonna get out of here after that. So, Commanders bring in at pick 29 Josh Connerly Jr. Oregon off the tackle. At in the second round, they bring in Trey Amos, Oregon or Ole Miss corner. Fourth round, Jalen Lane, Virginia Tech receiver. Sixth round, Kane Medrano, UCLA linebacker. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt in the seventh round, Arizona running back. Connerly Jr., I had a top 50 grade on him. Amos, top 50 grade. So those are both two good picks, both in areas of need. I like how they really emphasize the offensive line. I feel like we've said that about a lot of teams this offseason. Is a lot of teams that had bad offensive lines worked on that O line. And I'm going to not even go out on a limb. Just I feel like it's really obvious. Teams just saw the Eagles win the Super Bowl, and they see what that offensive line did for them, and how they were able to win. So it's good to see that kind of revolution, I guess, go on in the NFL. But yeah, this offensive line for the Commanders looks really nice. You got Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. Sam Cosmi is going to be coming back from injury. That's a heck of a football player right there. Connerly Jr. probably going to be your starting right tackle. Tyler Biadasz stays at center, and then you have Nick Algoretti at left guard, but you have competition for him. You have Brandon Coleman, who was really good at right tackle last year, and Coleman can bump into guard. Nate Herbig from the Steelers, Andrew Wiley, a couple of dudes there that can just compete for that position. And I really like I said, I really like Brandon Coleman. I think Brandon Coleman could be a starter when it's all said and done. And this is a team that could put out their best five and go from there. But uh, they really did a solid job this offseason, just continued to build off of off the roster that they were able to put together last year. And I think last year there was a lot of luck thrown in on that. That was a great team. You obviously had a great rookie quarterback, but I think you were playing on house money when it was all said and done. And this story would have been great if they would have gone and won a Super Bowl. But I just
For
don't
real.
think that was ever really bound to happen. But now you're looking at this roster and you're like, okay, now we get another year of Jaden Daniels, settling in. Obviously, we've seen a number of times second year quarterbacks have a really great second year, some have a really bad second year. So we'll see what direction Jaden goes this year, hopefully for the better. But now he has a beefed up receiver room. Debo Samuel thrown into that group, and then beefed up offensive line with the return of Sam Cosmi as well. You could have three different starters, three maybe four different starters thrown in there, three probably for Jaden Daniels this year. Beef up the Stevens of line with a number of different additions, particularly in the interior with Javon Kinlaw, Eddie Goldman, and then they did a great job through the draft. So I really like what they were able to do this offseason. I think that this is a great squad, and I could see them yet again being able to compete and potentially make a deep run here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as big on Connerly, I feel like, as you are. I don't know if it was the biggest need for them. Because I mean, the O line was already kind of solid. Obviously, you can always have a better O line, but I feel like that the O line was pretty solid last year. And they probably could have gone O line maybe a tiny bit later in the draft, especially with how their safety room looks. I'm not a big fan of their
Mm.
safety room, and how that looks. And
Well,
I
Quan
think
Martin's pretty good, but I see
there's not
beyond
much
that.
else
Yeah,
outside
I
of
agree.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I think Eban Wari was still on the board,
yeah, he was.
and yeah, and then there's a couple corner. I feel like the cornerback room. I mean, the cornerback room they addressed with Trey Amos, which I think is a good pick for them there. Um, hold the right tab. They could. Did bring in Jonathan Jones in free agency, um, but I feel like you could still go maybe another pick deeper with the corners as well if you want.
Well,
Um,
Igbenogany had a good year last year out of the blue.
did he?
But yeah, but you could put. I mean, you have and Mikey Stainer still.
He's really good.
He needs to be in the slot. He's a beast, but he needs to be in the
Hmm.
slot because he's going to be one of the best slot corners in the league if he is thrown in there. Put Amos and Lattimore across from each other. I kind of like that room with Igbenogany and Jonathan Jones behind them. Could probably use another boundary depth
Yeah.
piece, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I feel like they could have gone secondary the first round. Connerly is not a terrible pick there, but
Mm.
but outside of that, Trey almost was a good pick. Jalen Lane, I really like. And I think he's going to be a great pick for him there. It'll be interesting to see how exactly the hierarchy of wide receivers goes now. You got Terry, you got Debo, Noah Brown had a good year. Luke McCaffrey they drafted in the third round last year, so he's in the mix as well. Michael Gallup is on the team now too. He's back. I just
Yeah.
saw that. So it'll be pretty interesting to see kind of how that hierarchy of wide receivers works. Um, and then the last two picks, I honestly don't know anything about those two guys. So, but the top three picks overall solid. My main concern is just I think they could have gone a different route for a bigger need with their first round pick.
Yeah. I'm gonna shine some light though on Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt for 1 second. Let me just he has a really interesting story here. One second, let me so he gets picked in the 7th round, but beforehand, so last year he attended the University of New Mexico. He went out, he rushed for about 1,200 yards, 17 touchdowns, had a big year, became a really big name in the transfer portal. He ends up transferring over to Arizona, and he plays 1 game, 2 games. Let's see. He ends up playing 1 game, ironically against University of New Mexico. Lights it up, puts up over 100 yards, has a good game. And then the NCAA comes back to him and they're like, hang on, we just figured out that you didn't have all the proper whatever for your transfer. So then he has to sit out for the rest of the year. Before the
Okay.
season, he was actually a name like a sleeper type of name in this draft class. His film last year was I didn't get a chance to get eyes on it, but a lot of sources say his film last year was really good. So that's an interesting name to keep tabs on because
I'm drafting in
he could go
Dynasty.
out there. Oh yeah, he could go out there and light it up. So we'll see what he's able to do. But that's just
That's
that is
crazy.
just a
Yeah.
name to keep an eye on and yeah. But
So did he end up staying in Arizona, or did he have to go back to New Mexico?
he
Or
had
ended
to
up
stay
staying
at
in Arizona?
Arizona. I think he couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't transfer back.
Dang,
So
that's crazy.
so he had to stay put. He had to sit on the bench all year basically, and
Dang.
then yeah. So uh, anyways, let's
That it?
see. Yeah. Well, I gave him a C plus. What was your grade, Ayush?
Uh, I give him a C plus as well.
All right. Sweet. Yeah, that is it then. So that's the NFC. It only took us a month and a half to get our draft grades for the NFC taken care of, but we
Two episodes.
did it. So yeah, like I said at the beginning of the episode, we're working on getting back more consistently. So I think we're all because Ayush moved. I've been having a lot going on. Mark's schedule has been a little wonky. He's not as available on weekends in particular. And then Pierce is working at a summer camp. So our schedules have been a little
All
bit,
over the place now.
all over the place, reconstructed. So I'm glad that we were able to at least record today. So hopefully we'll be able to get
Yeah.
back at it a week from now or sooner. So, um, anyways, hopefully we're able to get back at it, get back to the AFC draft grades and go from there. But for the time being, that's going to do it for us in the war room. And we will see you guys next week.